Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to our second Coachathon.
Okay, we're veterans now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we get this down.
And today we thought we would tackle a subject matter that keeps coming up for people. And, I talk to various folks and, this is a big one. Even folks who have in the past, let's say, made a good amount of money, all of a sudden are experiencing some lack in their life. So we decided to do this entire week just focusing on this issue of lack, because it is such a big topic for people. And I want to preface this with saying that lack, yes, money is the biggest one around lack. That's where people have the most challenge, it seems like. But lack really flows through every facet of life. It's a perception of how we look at things. So when you think about, for instance, in a relationship, are you in flow and an open, curious, and an appreciation and gratitude with a relationship, or are you in lack? He or she is not doing enough of X, Y, Z. I'm not getting enough of. Or, we are in the process of letting people know about an event at the end of September, on the 21st and 22nd of September, our New Humanity Arise and Awaken event. And, it is very easy to go into potential lack around that. There's not going to be enough people coming, which is totally silly. It's such an amazing event that we know we can draw that in. But it is a state of being that we need to stay in order for that flow to be there. And so we decided to tackle lack today. And,
we only have an hour and a half.
I know.
But we'll make it.
Well, we actually have an hour or half an hour, and then we'll, take your questions. And I mean, we want to help you. Well, yeah. But we want to, and obviously, we won't be able to, give the full scope of the issue. It's a complicated issue. And
though I would really like to try to skirt into some of the depths and not let everybody know. I mean, there are so many trainings about abundance and lack and how do I make money. And we'll touch on some of those themes, but mostly we won't. Mostly this will be utterly new understandings about this whole subject that you've never heard before. It has nothing to do with us. It's just that information that is new to the world is arriving right now. And that's a part of our mantle and our mission to help bring this out. And so stick with us here, really. If this is an issue for you, and if you're a human being, it almost certainly is, then we're going to really, this is not going to be a complete training on lack, but this is going to show you it really is possible to walk out of this, but it involves a completely new concept and a completely new perception of how reality actually works. It's the misunderstanding that humanity has about the nature of reality that is really at work here. We can take back our life if we understand the physics of this world. And that's what I'd like to introduce with Kirsten today.
Yeah. So let me just say one thing, and then you can introduce this. So our invitation to you right now is, especially if you come from the law of attraction world, if you come from the secret world, that kind of a world, we ask you that you set what you think you know aside for now. You can pick it up later again, and you can reincorporate it if that feels right to you. But for right now, just set aside what you think you know about creating your reality and materializing and manifesting and law of attraction and all of that. Let's set that aside, because as Rennie said, this is new information coming into the world, and we want to first set a baseline from which we then can look at those subject matters again. So with that, would you like to take the
take
first
a start?
take a start.
So number one, physics of our world. Okay, let's just start with that. What is the nature of reality? Okay, let's start with how humans see reality. This is a global picture that pretty much everybody buys into. The world outside myself is real, it is solid, and above all, it is independent of myself. So bad things happen for no reason at all. I mean, it's self-evident, isn't it? I mean, something just comes out of left field, knocks you flat on your butt, you know, and all your hopes and dreams are shattered. Like, what happened to me? You know, and you're absolutely certain that it's just a tough world. It's a harsh world. It is a victim world. And that's the physics of this place. If one thing doesn't get me, something else will. Welcome to the human race. All right, so many centuries ago, every human being on Earth absolutely knew for sure that the Earth was stationary in space and the sun orbited the Earth. That was the opinion of every university, every religion, every government, every ordinary person on Earth without exception, okay? And one person, his name was Nicholas Copernicus, okay, made the argument, excuse me, but everybody on Earth is misinformed. And it turned out, it took a while, but humanity came to understand the nature of reality, that the Earth actually orbited the sun. So this is similar to that, okay? The way we see the world is not the way the world is. So how is the world really? If you can take this in, you don't have to buy it right now. There's lots of ways to get evidence if this is true or not, and we're going to share some of those with you today. But if you can basically hear the physics of this world, here it is. The world is a psychological construct whose origin is yourself. There is absolutely nothing that's occurring in your life that does not have its origin in the 60,000 thoughts that cross your own brain every 24 hours. You have a time gap between your thought and your experience. For most human beings, that time gap can stretch out as long as 20 years. So there's no way that it's done to protect ourselves. I mean, if it were true that every thought manifests immediately, thought done, and you had a thought of unworthiness, you could extinguish your existence. And so to protect ourselves in an immature stage of awareness, there's a time gap. And as you work this program that we're going to introduce to you today, that time gap is going to get shorter and shorter. It will not get thought done. You know, you'll still have the protection, but you can get to 2 or 3 months where you have a thought and then it's in front of you and you can see it. And you can get some more evidence that way. So that's the first thing, that your world, down to the tiniest detail, including all your victim experiences, is coming from yourself. Now, why it's complicated is because there are thought collectives. So if you get a whole lot of people who believe in something, the thought goes out, an airborne hormone circles that thought, carries it into the atmosphere. This is a chemical medium. It's lighter than air. It floats up into the atmosphere. It's not a living being. I'm talking about a thought chemical form. Okay? It floats into the atmosphere and it aligns with other thoughts that are similar. And so you have Christian thought forms and Muslim thought forms and New Age thought forms and literally millions of thought forms. And so if you basically buy into a collective in any way, that collective can send an electrical signal down that chemical medium into your skull and actually create a brain story that, you know, it's phenomenal. I mean, you're convinced it's your own thinking, but it's actually coming from the collective that you're tied into. And so a fundamental part of this is learning how to cut these circuits to these collectives so that you're no longer have your strings pulled by others. The other piece to this is that we're complicated. We've fractured ourselves in so many ways. Yeah, we have a conscious mind, but we also have a subconscious mind and an unconscious mind, which is a long story of how that happened. It's humans did it to themselves. So it's not just that you're saying, I'm abundant now. Let's go for intentions. You know, I don't do lack. Okay. I'm full of flow. I'm full of abundance. Okay. And then boom, something knocks you on your butt again. What? See, I knew that didn't work. That mystical stuff, that's not the way it works, you know. Well, we haven't taken into account that the thoughts that we have. Let's look at the order of these 60,000 thoughts. The first impact, the number one most biggest thing pulling our strings are these collectives. The collectives rule the country, the world, the humanity. Okay. Next comes genetics. We have ancestors sitting at our personality seat table. You know, basically, well, I don't think that's the way you do it. I mean, this is how you do it. You know, I mean, literally, your mother, her mother, go back 7 generations. That is really strong on your mother and your father's side both. And so we have to learn how to manage and reprogram our physical mitochondrial DNA to take back our life. Then we have to have a whole strategy for how to basically heal the unconscious and the conscious and the subconscious mind so that we basically put our mind back together again, end the fracture, and return the power and the beauty of our own mind back to ourselves. So how would you do that exactly? What would be the tool to do that? Since you are creating your own reality down to every detail, the tool is just to accept the reality. Someone comes in front of you and you understand and you acknowledge, I created that even though I don't know why. I created that. Oh, I created that. So, I mean, the world of blame and finger pointing is over once you understand the reality. There's nobody to blame. You know, and then yes, it gets challenging to imagine. What about the fetus in the womb, that is aborted? Okay, who is the mother aborting the child, or does the child abort itself? The child does the abortion every single time. And oh, what about that 18-year-old just shot dead in Afghanistan? No one at that funeral of that young man shows up to say, you know, he had his life plan. He saw that he was going to basically check out at age 18 in this way. It's right in his life plan. You can see that this is what he planned before he was even born. No one ever thinks that way. And yet that is the reality of our world. And so, in this session, we're going to start to introduce tools to take back our life. And understand that the experience of lack is 100% in ourself. And the experience of abundance and joy and flow and manifestation with ease and grace is also 100% in our life, where we basically take control of our own thoughts and our own perceptions.
How's that sound? I just wanted to share my own story because, you know, this can sound like, yeah, right. You know, this sounds like fairy tale or a little bit too far-fetched. But really, I mean, I don't know if you all saw the blog that I published today. And I started with, I had a disease, and that disease was called lack. And it was something that permeated my life pretty much all my life. And it did not make sense in any way, shape, or form to me. I am a well-educated, very intelligent, very action-oriented human being. And yet I could not get off that treadmill of every month trying to figure out how to pay my bills. And it was like, what on earth is going on? And I know many of you can relate to this. It's like, I know I am capable on some level of creating more sufficiency, more abundance, more prosperity, but somehow every time I turn around, I run headlong into this wall called lack. And so I would say just about 3 years ago is when this work that we've been doing really started coming in for me in a powerful way. And, you know, Rennie just mentioned the different layers that need to be addressed. So I want to emphasize that just going with these understandings of the law of attraction and, you know, draw it in and open yourself up to it, those are part of it, but they're not all of it. And really the first step for me was to understand that lack is not who I am. It's not something that I have has been imposed on me from the outside and I am victim to. It is something that I put in place at some point in my life to protect myself, but it is not who I am. That understanding alone takes you to the next level of empowerment. It is empowerment when you can understand that. And, you know, those of you who've been around us for a long time understand that what I'm talking about is egos. So lack is an ego, and I would actually call it an ego complex that we put in place at some point to protect ourselves and to have something run this ship we call us. And so, you know, once you understand that lack is something that is not who you are, it's an ego, it's causing you emotional reactions, fear, anxiety, stress, worry, you name it, then you can all of a sudden step into the empowered place of notice and observe. And we're not going to go into that tool today because we addressed that in the last Coachathon in depth. Now, if questions come up from you around specific issues, you know, we might bring that tool up, but we're not going to introduce it again here today. You can look at the previous Coachathon to really understand what egos are, how they're created, and how you can start the process of letting them go. And so, you know, again, back to my own story, it was so fascinating to start looking at the feelings, the emotions that would come when I went into lack and when I went into looking at my monthly bills and going, how on earth am I going to pay for this? And playing the whack-a-mole game of which bill am I going to pay right now? And there was always an emotional vortex around me that would keep me contracted, that would keep me in this loop. And over time, what has happened is that I've been able to relax that knot. And that's really what it was, that knot of lack. And what happened is, by me changing my emotional state of being from stress, worry, anxiety about it, and the thoughts that come with that of not good enough, you can't do it, you're not capable, you know, you don't deserve it, you know, all the that goes on up there, right? That then feeds into the emotional state of being that you're in. Once I started being able to watch it, observe it, let it go, change my state of being, all of a sudden, what started happening is that my external environment started changing. So what Rennie was saying about this is a psychological construct whose origin is yourself. When you're in stress, when you're in worry, when you're in anxiety and fear about lack, guess what you attract? It's lack. But when you can start going into open curious, putting yourself into the flow of life, being in trust that what needs to flow through will flow through, all of a sudden you change your state of being, and your external environment will change. And the way you perceive what is showing up will change. And that's really the key. More than what's showing up outside is, so let's say my bank account is back to just $100 and I don't know how to pay it. Now I have a choice. Do I go down into the lack mentality, the emotion of that? Or do I choose to stay in better than you could ever imagine and open curious and allow the magic and the unfolding of that to happen, to see everything in perfection and to know that there is a reason for that. There is a reason why this is unfolding in that way, and to celebrate the perfection of it. And it changes everything, everything. So,
yeah, so I would just add to that, I mean, really nice is, you know, just some basic, simple things. You know, how you see the world is how you're going to experience the world. So, I mean, think about yourself and think about the news and think about humanity and think about our politics and think about the legal world. And I mean, every institution, basically, it's all about them. So who's creating my misery? He did it. She did it. The government did it. Trump's the problem. It's just we have this long list of neighbors and ex-spouses and people that have just totally messed up our life, when in fact it's a complete misunderstanding. Yes, those people are there. They come before you to reflect back to you your own self-image. So, I mean, here is the idea: somebody triggers you, what do? I mean, you're just fuming, angry, you're upset, you're full of blame. But the reality is that it's an ego, and the ego is inside yourself. And the identity, the ego, has drawn to you this experience to reflect back to you. It's like the person who's triggering you is a window into yourself. You might want to say, thank you, ex-spouse, for showing me a window into myself. And that starts to align with the actual reality. No one's doing anything to you. No one's ever done anything to you. Whatever you condemn is what you'll experience. So this is just so profound, and this is so challenging for, I mean, this is back to Copernicus days. I mean, you know, nobody can buy this. This is just so threatening to our view of reality, and yet this is the way the reality really is. I would say my hope for making this discovery, it falls into two possible categories. One is the field of particle physics. In the field of particle physics, you've got these electrons moving around these gigantic corridors that are moving close to the speed of light. And experiment after experiment after experiment is demonstrating that the thoughts of the observer are affecting the outcome of what's going on inside that particle collider. And there's scientific papers about it. You can read about it. You know, that the subatomic world is basically morphs and shape shifts itself to human perception. So that's the beginning of the building block, that the whole world morphs and shape shifts itself to your own perceptions and your own thoughts. The other category of people are you and us, okay, who are basically starting to realize that I actually am creating my own reality. Now, you go to the big conference in Boulder, and the speaker stands up and talks about how we create our own reality, and everybody's cheering. I really agree with that. Yes, yes, you know. Then you're walking out of the auditorium talking to your friend, just mumbling under your breath about that ex-wife, you know. I mean, that, or Trump, he's the one, you know. It's just, it's hard to hold it together. It really is. And so we've created a practice where you can hold it together. and basically follow certain principles. They're not a philosophy or a new religion or anything. They're just based on the physics of the reality. Here's how it works. Let's do it like this. And we have reduced this to 13 principles, where you basically just pick a principle for the day. Actually, your body intelligence picks it, you know, and if you get check egos 4 times in a row, it really does.
No.
It gets your attention. You have little cards and you shuffle them up and pick a card for the day. Oh my God, I got check egos again. And then eventually, instead of again, you basically start to realize this is really a beautiful principle to understand for you at this moment, because you don't really react to an ego. You just simply have the power over it. And the power over it comes by seeing yourself rather than being it. So instead of like, oh no, you basically just notice and observe. You don't judge it. You're not hard on yourself. You haven't done anything wrong. You just see it, you know, and that gives you the amazing ability to edit yourself. I mean, think about it. Have you ever tried to change something in yourself, really? I mean, oh my God, you know, it's monumental to change a habit or anything, really. And so suddenly into the world comes a know-how for here's how to change a habit. Here's how to change an ego. Here's how to basically take back your life. Here's how you do the whole thing. And so what we are is a group of people who are attempting to march out of the prison of the human condition and literally create a new way of being, a new way of living on earth. And this is really, I'm not saying changing yourself is easy. I'm not saying that you can just basically do one thing and there's some silver bullet. There's not. It's a deep work. It really is, but it's possible. I mean, all we can say about it is that we are seeing people change and transform right before our eyes every single day. We're seeing it in ourselves. We really are. We don't pretend to be some teachers, know it all. We've got it all down. You know, we struggle with these issues too. And we do it with a community, with everybody. And we get support like we give support. And so it's really an exciting time. I mean, one way to see the whole world right now is that we've come to a benchmark of evolution. And the only way to understand why darkness is enveloping the world is to see through the eyes of evolution. The human race has come to a juncture, and people are choosing, and evolution is self-selecting, and there's no right or wrong about the choices that people will make. Some will choose to wrap up their current stage of awareness, and some will continue the journey to evolve. We're choosing the journey to evolve. We believe it's possible to really actually wake up in this world and to reform ourselves and change our external circumstances. And in changing our inside and outside world, change the whole world. And so it's just truly inspiring to realize that this is actually possible. We hope, especially me, that we won't today overwhelm you with what this is, you know. And not saying that it just a one-liner is going to work, because it's not. But taking back your life and basically stepping into the beauty that you've always been and experiencing the magnificence that's been with you since the dawn of your existence really is possible. And today we'd like to introduce a pathway for how you can experience that yourself.
So since Rennie already mentioned it, I just wanted to quickly put in here that community, and we're calling this the New Humanity, is actually meeting on September 21st and 22nd in Broomfield, which is just not far from Boulder, Colorado. And we're wanting to bring this community together to look at how do we make this conscious evolutionary leap to come together as a global force and to start designing the world that we want to see based on this new state of awareness. And so if you're interested in coming, I think my team hasn't yet changed the early bird price yet. It's supposed to have changed yesterday, but I don't think that happened. So if you're interested in coming to that, I suggest, I just put it in the chat, the link for that. It's ffh.org, New Humanity 2018. You might want to jump on that, because it's going to be an amazing event where we're going to, really get down on what we're talking about today. Want to put out that, we're going to start taking questions. So you have on your Zoom board, on your Zoom window, there should be a Q&A symbol for you. You can ask your question there, or, as we would prefer, raise your hand, and we will bring you up on video so we can actually talk to you. That would be our preference. So if you have any questions around lack, about, or anything that we just talked about, please, come on and let's have a conversation about that. And while you come on, I wanted to quickly teach you the tool that Rennie mentioned earlier. So one of the aspects, so egos and lack being an ego is one of the big issues around why we are stuck in lack. And then, as Rennie was saying, the other one of the other aspects is these gestalts, these belief systems, these collective belief systems that have formed. And there is one of the biggest ones in humanity is the lack gestalt. It's basically over the thousands of years that humanity has been on this earth, putting out lack, we're in lack, and those basically like attracting like, creating this belief system, this collective gestalt. And we tie into that with the circuits that Rennie mentioned. It's one of our senses, and we just connect into that, and then it becomes a transmission line where you get fed basically a cocktail of not good enough, worthless, you can't do it. All of that emotional debris gets basically fed right into you. And so cutting circuits is one of the most powerful tools you can do to take back your life. It is an absolutely essential tool. So let me quickly teach that to you. I'll give you sort of the Cliff Notes version. In our trainings, we go into it in depth, but I'll give you right now the Cliff Notes version. So the main thing to understand is that circuits, where they root in your body, is actually in your blood cells. And you can imagine your blood cells like a clamshell or like an oyster shell, right? Like this. It has two parts to it that connect at the bottom. And in that bottom area is where the circuits root. And so when you're doing this tool, that's where you want to direct your attention, and that's where you want to cut it, at the root. Okay, and if you imagine one, this is a holographic universe, it'll do it for all. So, you just have to focus on one blood cell. And so what you do is you imagine, you basically say, I am now cutting the circuits that are connected to the lack gestalt. Okay, I would probably throw in the victim gestalt too, just for good measure.
Or for a really good measure, you just cut all circuits to all gestalt, period.
But we're focusing on lack today, so I'm cutting the circuits to the lack that are connected from me to the lack gestalt. And then just imagine you have these spiritual scissors, and you go in and you snip right at the base of that blood cell, and really pay attention to what that feels like. Really pay attention to whether there was a moment of release, relief, opening. Really pay attention, because that'll give you your evidence. Now, the body is used to having these circuits, so odds are you're going to put them right back. But with consistent cutting, when we recommend every morning, every night, just cut your circuits, you're going to start training your body and yourself not to reconnect those circuits. Okay, so that is the circuit cutting tool. It's a powerful tool. As you just got with these side comments, it's a much broader tool than just, you know, using it for lack, to really take back your life. But yeah, so if you have any questions about that, so please raise your hand if you have any questions right now. This is a Coachathon, which means we would love to help you right now. Love to, you know, see if is there a specific instance in your life or something where, you know, we can help you push through right now. So raise your hand and we'll put you on the we'll bring you into the webinar. And unfortunately, phone call listeners, we cannot bring you on. You have to be on the video webinar in order to for us to open up your audio and video. So who is wanting to jump in here? This is your time. Use it. Trust me, it's even if you don't really have a question, but would like our time right now. You know, those of you who are new, you know, might not know this yet, but there is an ability here to actually see deeper into what's going on. So you might want to take advantage of that. So Kelly, hi Kelly. Can you please repeat how you cut the circuits? I was taking notes and missed exactly how you said to do that. So you imagine your blood cells being a clamshell with two sides like this. And the circuit connects at the base of that clamshell of your blood cell. And so you just take your spiritual hands and you cut at the root. You want to make sure that you get the root of those circuits out as well. So all the way, spiritual scissors, all the way at the root, cut, 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 cut. It's with your perception. Perception is everything. You say you're cutting it, you're doing it. So I hope that answers your question.
You know, you have connections, thousands of circuits. And so we're focusing on lack, but quite honestly, you can just clump your circuits. So here's all my circuits to my biological family. Here's all my circuits to the people with whom I work. Here's all my circuits to collective consciousness and thought collectives. You know, here's some miscellaneous circuits. I don't know what they're for, but they're not serving me. So I put those in a bunch. And then basically cut them out as bunches. So you can take out 10,000 circuits at one cutting. And the power of perception is how you do it.
One of the most impactful circuits we tend to put in is to what we call social consciousness. And if you find yourself in this kind of irrational fear or agitation, one of the things that we recommend is try cutting the circuit to social consciousness and see if that changes your state of being. I've done that numerous times where I'm just driving down the road and all of a sudden I have this pang of fear in my solar plexus and I'm like, where's this coming from? You know, I don't remember having a thought that could trigger that. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to cut circuits to social consciousness and I'll go in there into that blood cell all the way at the bottom and cut it. And it's like, okay, that's better. So these are mechanisms that we are not yet aware of. And that's part of our evolutionary journey, is to start seeing what is pulling our strings, what is affecting how we're feeling, and then getting the tools one by one to actually be able to take back your life and to be on the journey of individuation. That's the journey we're on. We're right now a collective species that, you know, is completely mixed up with each other. And what we're trying to do is to take back our life and to say, this is who I am, without being affected by anything or anybody else. I get to choose who I am, and I'm making this evolutionary leap right now. And so that's really the invitation. And so there are so many tools that we bring in to help you make that step by step by step towards yourself. And it's as Rennie said earlier, it's absolutely amazing to watch people make these changes. Okay, we have Maria. So Maria, I'm going to bring you onto the webinar. You should be coming in. There you are. Hi, sweetie. Oh, are you muted? There you are.
Not anymore.
Hi.
So, this is a subject that I am really struggling with. Been working on it with Lakita lately, and she's my buddy in the training. And this morning, after the meditations, what came up for me, another piece of lack was an ego called entitlement. I have this entitlement ego from growing up in a family where there was everything we ever needed. I never needed, you know, and I was expected to marry a rich man and have him take care of me. It's the whole Cinderella story, which I bypassed, rebelled, so to speak. But I've always had a backup. I've always had a financial backup, and I don't have that right now, and I'm out of work. So it's helpful to be reminded about cutting the circuits. I didn't really put lack into a gestalt. It really makes sense to me now when you say that. So I appreciate that. And I do it with one hand and just, you know, go in the middle right there and get them all. But thank you for that reminder. But, and, you know, I'm doing fine if I can be present and be in the present moment. And I've got food in the refrigerator. My bills are paid. I'm, you know, until the next, until next week. So it's been challenging for me to stay in that place when I know that there's bills coming and I don't have the money right now to pay them.
Mm-hmm. So. And that's exactly where the work is. You've been, you know, doing this work with us for what, a year and a half now, something like that.
Right.
You know, and this is where the rubber hits the road. You're at a choice point. And, you know, we always say, pull back more into a macro view of things and see if you can actually pull out of the myopicness of, oh, I don't, you know, my bank account is really, really low, and I'm going to choose to go into fear about that. But rather seeing if you can pull back, see the perfection of what's going on to show yourself how far you've come. Can you choose right now to stay in better than you could ever imagine? Can you choose to trust that everything you've done up till now is actually working, and that you're giving yourself evidence and opportunity to really practice when the external evidence seems to be quote unquote bad or contracting? Can you actually trust that it is better than you could ever imagine? And there's a reason you chose to create this for yourself right now, for your own evolution, and really work the heck out of it. Really stay in gratitude, really stay in open, curious innocence, really stay in better than you could ever imagine. Can you actually now, in this moment, stay with what you've learned? and stay in the state of being that you know you need to be in order to attract what you want.
Right, right. Yes, in this moment. Yes.
Right. And that's where you get to look at your thoughts. For me, one of the biggest things is always watching, what are my thoughts doing? Are my thoughts going to, what if I can't, tomorrow pay my bills? Or what if, or the past has always been XYZ, and therefore the future will be the same. The thoughts are what fuel your emotional state of being. And I think you nailed it when you said, can I stay in the present moment? Can I stay right here, right now in my beauty?
Right, right.
This is the only thing that matters. You don't know what the future will bring, even 5 minutes from now. So the only thing you know, it's better than you could ever imagine.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add to that, in your journey, your own spiritual journey, you've picked up an idea that in order to be spiritual, you need to surrender. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I'm just describing what you've picked up. And letting it all go, including your house, your possessions, everything, coming to zero, produces the conditions to basically be spiritual. That money and spirituality sort of have some opposition forces.
Right.
And that this is something that is been, you don't look at it every day, you've just pushed it below the surface. It's right there, actually. You can bring it up and see it. It's in the subconscious mind. And so you can basically say every moment, everything's going to be better than you could ever imagine, but then the fridge empties out and it makes you kind of wonder, if this really principle one is really working like it's supposed to. And it actually turns out it's just your own complexity, it's your own subconscious mind that's the culprit, really. So you can, again, use the power of your perception to bring that antiquated idea of spirituality up and look at it without judging it. There's nothing wrong, but just see it and now let it go. Entitlement is an interesting, delicate thing because in a way, the universe will provide you abundance. And you don't want to take it to your ego. So here's what you can do. Your life can have ease and grace. There can be magic around every corner. You can basically do whatever you feel passionate to do and earn a livelihood doing your passion. These are principles. If you can clear deck of the negative parts that are trying to defeat this, you absolutely can do it. You don't have to work 12 hours a day to survive. I mean, you don't. You really can be gentle on yourself and gentle in life, and magic can occur and connections occur, and suddenly you're meeting someone who, is really on a similar path, and they want your support for what you've learned, and there's a financial exchange, and it's really all there to have happen. It's just, we've got a clean deck with, we got to go deep. We really do. And watch the things that are sabotaging ourselves. So just, if everyone who may not know what we mean when we say better than you could ever imagine, we were looking for a universal principle that would align with the actual nature of the reality we're in. There we could put all 60,000 thoughts, every single one of them, on a default setting. And so that it would work for every situation, no matter what. And so what was developed was very precise language. So something comes in front of you and your immediate reaction might be, oh my God, what does this mean? My refrigerator is empty. No, you're basically see everything in front of you as it's going to be better than anything that you could possibly imagine. and you feel it. I mean, you start off intellectually understanding what you're doing, but you really feel it and you know it. And quite honestly, we made it the first principle because it's actually the only thing you have to do to end lack and create flow and generate magic. I mean, there's another 12 principles that reinforce that mightily, but that's all you really have to do. It's just that you can't be superficial about it. You have to get beyond the conscious mind, the conscious brain, the thinking part of yourself. You're a more complex being than basically just what you say in your head, you know. So that's what we're working on. So when you said, you know, being present and stepping into my beauty kind of thing, I mean, that's really the heart of the matter, you know. I mean, you're just here, you know. I mean, you can think, but basically you can also stop thinking. And as soon as you stop thinking, your perception can bring in knowingness, which is so much better for accurate information than brain chatter. And so you basically just no thinking, be present, and now step into my beauty. Feel my innocence. You know, just you're a magnificent being that you let yourself have appreciation for. And, you know, I know you've heard this many times, but maybe today hearing it again will be all you need to kind of finally really get it and say, okay, I'm just going to do this. You know, this is my way out of my empty refrigerator into abundance. And because it really is, actually, you know, it's not that things won't happen, there won't be activity, but the activity comes because you're present and because you know everything's going to be better than you could ever imagine. And you take back your life with the power of your own perception. How you see the world is how you're going to experience the world. It's the physics. It's not a philosophy. It's not a new religion. It's the way it works. It's the way it's always worked. This is a victim world because most people believe this is a victim world. That's why. So let's just change ourselves, and then that way we can change the whole world.
I do have a question about circuits. Are there circuits to the subconscious and the unconscious that we can cut?
Well, it's probably not the best approach to the subconscious and the unconscious. The unconscious does create circuits to collectives. And that's one of the reasons why Kirsten said you cut them and then they get put back again. Often it's the unconscious mind, really. The unconscious mind is the world of the unconscious collectives. And so our cuttings, why we are so precise about this blood pocket thing is because that's really where all circuits are. So we're nothing casual here. We're not just throwing out some ideas. These are very precise terms. I mean, if there's a medical doctor listening today, they might say, well, what are you talking about? A blood cell looks like a clamshell. That's not true. Well, it actually is true if you understand the 23 pairs of chromosomes. There was a time in the human development before there was human when it was a copper-based slurry in the blood, which means blue blood. So we come from a blue blood tradition, and now we're a red blood, iron blood slurry in our blood system. And so our blood cell actually is composed of blue blood and red blood. And so we're really being very exact about exactly what it is. There it is, blue blood, red blood. There's the circuits right there. So that's it's not complicated. It's just exact. And so it's good not to color it. So coloring it would be cutting I wouldn't think about working with the unconscious mind through cutting circuits. Cut circuits for everything in your being. And then we'll create another tool called the proxy game, which we'll introduce in our training, for dealing with the depths, the profound depths of the unconscious mind.
Okay. Thank you.
I wanted to come back to what Rennie said right in the beginning. For all of those of you who come from more of the New Age spirituality, just to keep that really understanding that the New Age spirituality is as much a gestalt and a belief system as any other religion or any other gestalt that is created. And there is a belief within that gestalt that says you cannot be spiritual and make money. That is a very, very deep-seated belief within that gestalt. And be aware, if you come from that lineage, you have circuits to that gestalt, and that is going to be what is feeding down your circuit. So that is something you want to be cutting very diligently as well, because there is nothing in our design that says you cannot be in ease and grace in money situation and be spiritual. There is nothing that is opposing in that. That is purely a belief system. So I just wanted to just come back to that and make sure everybody heard that.
Yeah, there are certainly things in traditions and New Age, practices that have value and can support a person in their own journey. But when you tie into their collectives, do you really know the fine print and the footnotes? And the chances are you really don't. And so when you basically have a circuit with a gestalt, like a New Age gestalt, or a tradition for that matter, those footnotes and fine print are going to bleed right into your body chemistry. It affects your body chemistry. And it creates brain stories. And it's not the design of this reality. Your design is to individuate, to be an individual. That's the journey here. It's a design feature. It's not a hive mindset. We have a history of hive mindsets, and these collectives, that's the continuation of that legacy. Hive mindsets. So if you want to truly make a leap of life and evolve into the next stages possible, you do it as an individual. You don't do it as a collective. No one can make these decisions for you either. So you're not going to do it in your family or your biological family everyone makes choices individually when it comes to evolution. That's just the way it is in the design of the physical universe.
Okay, so we have another question. So let me get Jeffrey on. Hey, Jeffrey.
Are we unmuted?
You are unmuted, yes.
All right, thank you for taking the time with me again. I will try to be brief, but you know how I like to talk. But just to let you know, the police aren't getting me anymore. The judge isn't getting me anymore. So, we're good to go.
Yay.
Yay. And so it was so interesting on the subject we're talking about. So, my desire to evolve, is very strong. And when I listen to your story, Kirsten, it's like a carbon copy of my life, okay? Everything. And we've talked about this. So lately I've been creating this awesome reality of black and, like to a degree I've not seen in years, black and all this stuff. I won't go into details, but, it's been really getting very intense. And I'm creating these situations. It's like, I just keep making it worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, wow, this is ridiculous, So right about that time, I saw your email for this, webinar. And I thought, okay, this is cool because this is forcing me to want to gain more knowledge, So instead of beating myself up, I'm like, yeah, I'm creating this. And why? Because I want to evolve. And so you're offering a solution right about at the time it started to get really deep. You know what I mean? So I see the perfection in that. And I had this woman approach me that, I looked at her, I'm like, oh my God, she's like, the perfect woman that I would ever, ever dream of, and but I was suspicious of her, so I was like really pushing her away like crazy. I mean, almost to the point of being rude, because I just didn't believe that she was interested in me, and but we've developed this relationship, and then all of a sudden money started coming up. But again, it's something, I created. It's a fear that I've had. And then I got thinking, wow, this woman is absolutely everything I ever wanted, but now I'm going to lose her because I'm in this horrible financial situation, so I would go through all kinds of mental consternations. And but anyways, I knew the seminar was coming up. I using all the tools that you've been sharing with me, but I forgot about the cutting. I forgot about the cutting part. I haven't been doing that. That's why all this stuff keeps cropping up, and then I was really getting worried about losing her, and I sent your email to her regarding financial situations, and she emailed me back like an hour later, and she was just ecstatic in the information, so it's like it just added something to our relationship, that because she wants to grow and I do too, and it's a subject we all struggle with, but she was so elated with that email of yours, so it just gives us something to talk about tonight. So just wanted to thank you for all the tools and the cord cutting thing. So I'm going to keep working on that.
Nice.
That's about it.
So I just want to highlight just a couple of things that you said, just for the benefit of everybody.
Right.
One of the key things that you kept saying is, then my thoughts, and I'm going to paraphrase, then my thoughts would go to this worry about this potential outcome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you said that in several different ways. You
Yes.
were worried about losing her because of your money situation. You were worried about, what your money situation was. You allowed your thinking to affect how you are feeling, your state of being.
Yep.
So that is the where I would coach you to go in the first place and really practice presence, and not allowing your brain, which is what the egos use to control, to go allow you to go into that loop that you do. There is no need to worry about the future. You know the future. It's better than you could ever imagine. And it may be with her, or it may be with somebody else, or nobody at all. It's still better than you could ever imagine. That's the only thing you know. And whether you have money or not is irrelevant to that conversation. And so it's such a powerful understanding when you can really let yourself feel what that feels like if you come into the present moment and not allow thoughts to take over how you feel about something.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes, Jeffrey, it takes a practice could be to give it a duration of time. This is such a monumental change to stop negative thinking. I mean, it's very challenging to do, but you could decide to have an experiment and see if you can get some of your own evidence that for 1 month solid, you don't fake it, you really know it, everything in your life is going to be better than anything you could possibly imagine. And you can put little Post-its all over the place to remind you. And I mean, it's an all-out assault on this one thought. So you don't have any other thought. I mean, any thought that comes up that's different is just immediately canceled. And that's right back to better than you could ever imagine. With her, with whatever activity you want to pursue, everything. And the other thing I would add to it is to really step into appreciation. Appreciation is such a powerful perception because it changes your body chemistry. For you personally, your body chemistry pulls you down. You've got fear chemistry in your bloodstream. And that's hard to remove. I mean, it really is. It's no surprise. I mean, if I had a technology that was a fear meter that could measure fear for all times in history, including the the Middle Age Inquisition period, or World War I or World War II, every period of history where fear just blanketed the world, fear is peaking for all times right now today in our world. There has never been a level of fear as there is right now. And so it bleeds into you. I mean, it bleeds into everybody. And so we basically are taking steps to disconnect from our circuits. That's the way the fear is bleeding in. And then take back our life by taking back our thoughts. And the thought that you want to have is just one. There's just one thought for 30 days. Better than you could ever imagine is your constant thought. And you feel it and you know it. And get your own evidence for how this transforms everything. Magic will happen. You watch and see, in relationships and activities and finance, everything will just fall into place. Is that true or not true? Why don't you find out? Give it 30 days and see for yourself.
I will do that.
And the other thing to notice is, lack, generally we talk about lack when it has to do with money. But, here is a relationship that is a beautiful or a potential relationship. I don't know if you're in that state yet, but there's this potential of beauty and fullness and flow and gratitude for being together. And yet there is this lack already showing up within that relationship in terms of, well, this piece, there is not enough of money, let's say. So just see how lack weaves through everything in life, not just from a financial perspective, but how we look at everything, including relationships. And so you want to be aware and step out of any lack thinking around this relationship and just see it as perfection, no matter what it ends up being. It is perfect. It is full. It is full of gratitude. It is better than you could ever imagine. And you are just open, curious innocence about how it unfolds without attachment to the outcome. There is a beautiful way to live life.
Exactly. Yeah. So just one final piece of physics, to add to this understanding is about trust. Trust is a unitary issue. It has nothing to do with the other person. The other person is just a mirror to yourself. And so you basically, if there's a lack of trust, a relationship is going to work out. The trust issue is always in you. It's nothing to do with the other person. Right. The other person will come and go depending on where you are with yourself. The best approach to a love relationship is you love her when she comes and you love her when she goes, because the love was always in yourself in the first place.
Awesome. Thank you for reminding me of all these things that I knew.
Yeah. We hear sometimes, we have to hear something, at least 200 times for it to fully sink in. So you're doing great. You really are.
Thank you. You guys are great.
Thank you. Okay, we can take probably one more question. So let's see here.
New person.
Yeah, we want to hear from a new person. Let's see. There we go. Anybody? We still have some time for questions. Okay, Michelle. Let me align. There you are. Hi, Michelle.
I'm sorry. Just as I got on, the dog started to bark.
It's all right.
I'm going to go outside. I just wanted to say that this is an ongoing thing for me, or has been, lack, as you put it. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
It's okay. A little soft.
Yeah, just keep speaking up.
Okay. So, but in 2012, I found out that I had cancer, lung cancer, from smoking a lot for a long time. So I decided to have surgery and all of that. My life was hard. There was not enough money. Nothing was right. I went into surgery. I was in the hospital for 7 days. I came out. I had plenty of money. It was all the same exact life, only I had plenty of money and it was easy. Now, I'm not saying that I don't go back into the lack, because it's a major thing for me. But that was so terribly interesting, you know, because it was the same exact life. So I just wanted to say that.
That's the power of perception. I hope everybody just heard what Michelle said. It sounds sometimes so, you know, superficial to say that, but the only power tool you have is the power of your perception. You can look at the same exact situation and see it as not enough, I'm in lack, it's terrible. Or you can choose to see it as I am in abundance, I am open, I'm curious, I'm flowing, and life is great. Same exact situation. And my favorite example of that, my favorite story, is when Nelson Mandela came out of prison, where he was for, I believe, something like 30 years, most of it in solitary confinement. For most human beings, that would put you in the psych hospital or under the ground. That would be such a traumatic experience for most human beings. And he was interviewed by somebody who asked, how did you survive that experience? And his answer was, I had a love affair with Jesus. And that one little sentence made it so clear to me how powerful our perception is. Now, whether you have a love affair with, you know, Buddha or whatever it is that brings you into that space, love affair with yourself, it is your choice how you're going to see solitary confinement. Is it something that is going to be so traumatic that you cannot survive it, or are you going to use it as an opportunity to become so in love with something that it's one of the most beautiful experiences of your life? Which is it? It's your choice. It's your perception. So is lack something absolutely terrible that is going to drag you down and make you one of the most miserable human beings on earth? Or is it an opportunity to really step into something so beautiful that it's going to allow you to make this conscious evolutionary leap to a new stage of awareness, where you understand the physics of this world, where you understand the reality of how this place works, and you start consciously designing how you're going to live your life from an internal place, not from an external evidence yet, but from that internal place of how you choose to perceive what's in front of you, and then start consciously designing it through that one perception of better than you could ever imagine. That's what the invitation is here, and it is absolutely powerful.
Okay. Are we dead? Are you ready to say something?
So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So let's, hold on a sec. Let me just put Michelle back on mute here. So I just wanted to wrap up this. I hope this was useful for those of you who, especially those of you who are new. I mean, I know there's a lot of new concepts here and a lot of interesting ideas. And as I said before, what our role is, that Rennie and my role is to ignite, to train, and to coalesce this new humanity, the pioneers of the new humanity. Those of you who understand that it is time for this conscious evolutionary leap, to change our perception, to embrace who we truly are, and make this journey to individuation. And so we are bringing together a group of the New Humanity on the 21st and the 22nd of September. We're calling it New Humanity Awake and Arise. And it is something where we're looking at how can we make this evolutionary leap. And it's really designed for those of you who are ready to say, I am done with drama and trauma in my life. I am done with seeing my life through the lens of lack, through the lens of victim, through the lens of whatever emotional reactions and emotional knotting you are in, to say, I'm ready for liberation. I'm ready to actually design my life in a way that serves me and opens me up to the possibilities. So we're going to be talking about that in this New Humanity Awaken and Arise. The second thing, though, is so many of us feel like we're totally alone. I mean, I don't know if, how about you? I just came back from Germany, and boy, did I feel like I was in Muggle world. I mean, it's like, it's people are so myopic right now in their lives and in their fear and in their lack and in their victim. And it's like we don't know that there are millions of us that are so ready, that are at the starting gate of this new chapter in humanity. And so we want to bring everybody together to say, look, there are millions of us, and let's come together, because as a global force, we can actually have an impact. It's truly the be the change to change the world, and we can do that together in a very, very powerful way. And then the third thing is, we can then, as this global force, start designing the world we want to create. From this new stage of awareness, we can start creating what it is that we want to, how we want to live, with respect for the earth, with respect for each other. And we call this the nation of Ilion. We use this meme of a nation, a new nation on earth for the new humanity. And so we're going to be playing with that concept as well on the 21st of September. And so we invite you to join us on that day, on those 2 days. As I said, I believe the early bird is still available right now for either, you can come either to day 1 or both days. If you only want to come to day 2, which is our Earth Whisper Awaken Day, you have to have had some training with us before or come to day 1. But those are all available, and it is going to be a pretty epic event that we strongly recommend you come to if there's any resonance with what we just talked about, and if you feel any draw to be part of this new humanity and come along on this journey to, of evolution with us. So I put the link is in the chat. Again, it's ffh.org, New Humanity 2018. And feel free to reach out to us. We are available to talk to you if you have any questions about it, whether you feel like you want to have, talk about whether, you're part of the new humanity or anything like that. Reach out to us. We're available. I'm going to put our email address, which is newhumanity@ffh.org. You can reach us there. And let us be here together. Let's come together as this global force, because it is time. As I said, I was just in Germany, and everybody is grokking. Something is up in the world. And I mean, really, it's like everybody's talking about it. It's like, okay, there is changes happening in the world, a lot of earth changes, which is why our second day is focused on earth whispering. And so it's time to step up. It's time to step outside of our own little world and see the bigger picture. And last week, Rennie did some Facebook Lives and blogs around the state of the world right now. So on our Facebook page, New Humanity Arise, all this stuff is listed. So we invite you also to go over there and like our Facebook page. So
we admit that, for new people, it's hard to explain the meaning of this 2-day event, especially the second day. Most of us believe the earth is a living organism. There's not too much consensus around the idea that the earth is also self-aware. But the earth is self-aware. You can talk to the earth the way we're talking right here now. And the second day, we're just going to bring the earth right into a room where you're sitting to hear from the earth its view of this time. What is the meaning of these fires, volcanoes? The oceans are dying. The greatest extinction of species in the last 65 million years is occurring right now. I mean, is humanity in trouble? I mean, what is going on here? So we can speculate and theorize about it ourselves, but if you wanted a really good weather outlook, an authority on the weather could be the earth herself. And so I'm just trying to tell you, this has never happened before. You're moving into a absolutely on time, perfect understanding of the central issue of our time. The earth is rebalancing, and it doesn't matter if you're a humanity person or a new humanity person, everybody is affected. But never before has perception about what's coming been so important to whether basically you plunge into fear and just, death, or whether you basically rise to the occasion and create a new way of living. And so this is a big deal. It really is. And hopefully you'll look at the website or speak with us personally if you want to know more. This is an historic event, and you are invited, and this is actually happening. So put on your calendars. 21st and 22nd of September is really a launching period for a new humanity on Earth.
Okay. With that, I believe we are done. We wish you all a better than you could ever possibly imagine rest of your day and rest of your week, and we hope to see you in September. And we're going to be doing additional Coachathons. The next one is September 5th, I believe, a little earlier, I think at 10 a.m. if I'm not mistaken. I should have looked that up before, but we'll be sending out an invite on that, and it'll be also on the Facebook page. So we hope to see you there, and invite anybody you think might be interested in getting some support. We may be doing relationship issues next time. We'll have to see, but that may be on the docket. So anyway, have a fabulous rest of your day, and thank you for joining us today, and we will see you soon. Bye, everybody.